Assalamu alaikum. Let's see in this video how we can create an image and Dockerize the Flask application and then create a container using that image and access the Flask application running inside the Docker container from the browser. So here I have a very simple Flask application. So the application we render here are this template, which is the hello.html. So it will render this file, which will display a very simple text, which is welcome to Flask. Okay, let's first of all test our application on our host. So to execute this application, here we will run Python 3 app.py. So now the application is running and we can access it using this link. So here you find the text that we have in the HTML file called hello.html. Okay, so now the application is running on our host. Let's see now how we can put this application in a Docker image and then create a container and access the application from the Docker container. So to Dockerize this application, we will create a Dockerfile. And here we will tell Docker how we want to create this Docker image. So first of all, we have to use a base image or a parent image. Here I will use the Python. So Python 3.11-Alpine. So here is the base or the parent image that we want to use here. Okay. Next, we will set the working directory using the workdir instruction, and we will set it to /app. Now let's copy the application code from our host to the working directory, which is /app. So here, Docker will take the application code and will copy it to the /app folder inside the Docker container. Okay. Next, we have to install a Flask inside the Docker image, and for that here we have the requirement.txt. Okay, so here we mention all the packages and dependencies needed for our application. Okay, so here we put all the packages and dependencies that we need in our application, and then we will install them in the Docker image using the run instruction and the pip install command. Okay. So here we want Docker to execute this command to install the packages that we mention here in the requirement.txt. Okay, and finally we have to tell Docker how to start our application, and that's done using the cmd instruction. So here we will give Docker the command that we want to execute when we create a Docker container. So when we create a Docker container, we want to start our Flask application, and that's done using Python 3 followed by the file that we want to execute, which is app.py. Okay, so first of all, here we mention the base image that we want to use to create our Docker image. And then here, using the workdir instruction, we set the working directory. Then here, using the copy instruction, we copy the application code from our host to the Docker container or to the image. And then here using the run instruction, we tell Docker that we want to execute pip install to install the packages and the dependencies that we mention here in the requirements .txt. Okay, and finally here we tell Docker about the command that we want to execute when we create a Docker container to start our Flask application. Okay, so here when we create a Docker container, this command will be executed, Python 3 app.py, to start the Flask application. Okay, so now let's build the Docker image, and we will use the docker build command, and then we can give it a name, for example Flask app, and then we give it the path to the Docker file. So now Docker start building the Docker image. So here we have some warning, but it is not a problem. And so here we find that the image was built successfully. Let's verify that using Docker images. And here is our Flask application created 32 seconds ago. So now let's create a container using that image and access the Flask application running inside the Docker container. Okay, and for that we use the docker build command and the docker run command, and then we give it the name of the image, which is Flask app, and here we will map the port 5000 of our Docker host to the port 5000 of the Docker container. Okay, so let's execute this command, and now we can access the application using this link. Okay, or we can open here at the browser. Let's go to localhost with the port 5000. So here we see the same text that we saw previously, welcome to Flask. Okay, and this is coming from the application running inside our Docker container. And we can access the logs of the container using Docker logs, and then we give it the ID or the name of the container. So let's give it just the few characters of the ID, and here we see the logs of our Flask application. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next video we will see how we can push and save our Docker image in Docker Hub.